In this episode, the guys tell the story of a Hollywood star receiving oral sex. Our lawyers have advised us to remove the star's name from the podcast to avoid potential litigation. We've done that, which is why, in that section, you will hear the audio masked to remove the name.
You're listening to They Shoot Films with Ken Mercer and F.T. Kosempa.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of They Shoot Films, the podcast where we talk about the films that matter. My name is Ken Mercer, and I'm joined here, as always, by the great F.T. Kosempa. F.T., how are you?
I'm doing well, Ken. I'm doing very well. How are you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing great now that we're recording this. There's something about the sound of my own voice that just fascinates me.
Okay, let me see here. Is that Wally?
That is Wally Fay from this
episode.
Go. Very good, FT.
Wow.
That is Wally Fay from this episode's film, Mildred Pierce, the wolf Wally Fay.
Yes.
How would you describe the character Wally Fay, FT?
As the antagonist to the Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, the wolf.
The big bad wolf.
The man who, when he sees an angle, he starts cutting himself a piece of throat, as he puts it.
A big piece, yes.
And just one of the very flawed male characters in Mildred Pierce, which has been called a woman's film, and we'll explore if that is really the case as we dig into it. But this is Mildred Pierce from the year 1945, directed by one Michael Curtiz.
Curtiz.
No, it's directed by the director Michael Curtiz. Don't get stroppy with me, FT.
Spelled Curtiz.
Yeah, so we're going to have to deal with this as a piece of housekeeping before we get into the show. Everybody in Hollywood, everybody who talks about the director Michael Curtiz pronounces it as Curtiz, but his official biographer, Alan Rody, says that everyone mispronounces his name, that it is pronounced Curtiz. And the evidence is pretty clear on this, I think, because he was born, Curtiz, as we'll talk about, was born in Hungary, and his name is spelled like the photographer Andrei Curtiz.
Curtiz.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So it definitely... and again, I would recommend, and very, very, very helpful for this podcast, Alan Rode. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Rode or Rode, R-O-D-E. His definitive biography of Michael Curtiz from the University of Kentucky Press, highly recommended. But he is the official biographer, and he says it is correctly pronounced Curtiz. So. Since we are law-abiding podcasters, we will pronounce it Curtiz.
Not me, man. I can't help it.
Okay, well, you do the best you can.
When I first noticed him as a youngin', as a director, it just stuck. And that was a long time ago, after Casablanca and Victory at Marseille. So it stuck in my head as, yes, sir. And when I think about it, I think that was a double bill. That's why those two films, they're iconographically dissimilar too, or similar rather, not dissimilar. But it stuck in my head, Curtiz. Now you got me saying Curtiz.
Yeah. So Michael Curtiz, as you said, was the director of the little-known film, Casablanca,
yes,
which the American Film Institute has a list which we've used before on the show. I know you love using it.
I love this list.
Of the 100 greatest American films. Is Casablanca on that list, in your opinion, FT?
That's a yes-no answer, so I'm flipping a coin. Yes.
Yes. And where would you say it ranks out of the 100 greatest American films?
I'm going to do my mental roulette wheel, and I'm going to say number 12.
Wrong, as usual on the AFI quizzes. One day you'll get it right. So it's interesting. The initial AFI 100 Greatest Films list, and again, it's put together by members of the American Film Institute, directors, critics, and on the initial poll, which was done over 10 years ago, Casablanca was ranked the number 2 American film ever. They did a 10-year anniversary list of the 100 greatest films, and Casablanca actually dropped to third place. So, FT, what do you think is the number one film? It has not changed. It was number one in the original poll and on the 10th anniversary poll. What do you think is number one?
I'm terrible at this. Vertigo or Cain? Which one?
No, you're right. Citizen Cain by Orson Welles is number one. But again, the interesting thing, too, Casablanca was number two. It slipped to number three at the 10-year anniversary. And the film that was number three originally moved up to number two. What do you think that film is, FT?
Vertigo?
No.
What?
Godfather by Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah. Now, what is interesting, since you brought up the word interesting, is this conundrum, this mystery, this enigma wrapped inside a riddle, which is that Michael Curtiz is the director of either the second greatest or the third greatest American film of all time, yet he is not a household name as a director. You know, if you ask people on the street, name great directors, they probably would never get to they would never get to Curtiz. They would say Orson Welles. They would say John Ford. They would say
Coppola,
Alfred Hitchcock,
Spielberg,
Judd Apatow. Sorry, I got to get that. FT is not a Judd Apatow fan, so I had to get that.
Very good.
Had to get that in there.
Depends on the household.
It's called an Apatow slam.
Apatow. Sounds like a food.
We're going to dig into a little bit later in this podcast, teaser, so you want to stay tuned, why it might be that Curtiz has directed one of the greatest films of all time, many great films, yet is not on the list of great directors. But before we go there, why don't we stop for a moment and ponder, or let me ask you, FT, what genre would you place the film Mildred Pierce, 1945, in? What genre is it, in your estimation?
This is my third hated question. Genres?
Yes.
The obvious thing here is film noir.
Okay.
But you're going to say, not really. It's really more of a drama. Am I wrong? Am I wrong to anticipate?
No, I think. I think it should have been easier for you to place this in a genre, because I would place it in a genre that
Western.
Was created by They Shoot Films. There's a genre that was actually came out of They Shoot Films.
Oh, I forgot our own genre. What is like I forgot. What is it? Give me the name.
The genre that developed here at They Shoot Films.
Trademark.
Mellow noir. Which is a blend between a melodrama and a film noir.
And that was...
FT, do you remember what film actually caused it to generate that genre?
Yes,
Which one?
The Kiss of Nakedness.
Yeah, The Naked Kiss by Sam Fuller, which I think I would propose was heavily influenced by Mildred Pierce. I think the marks of Mildred Pierce are on Sam Fuller's Naked Kiss. The opening sequence of Mildred Pierce, starting with the murder and a male character staggering into the camera, is what Fuller did in Naked Kiss. He took it further in terms of the way he moved the camera, the playboy, kind of the creepy, rich playboy character comes out of Mildred Pierce.
Yes.
And also, let's not forget...
the wig removal.
What's that?
The wig removal.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say, let us not forget that Naked Kiss, like Mildred Pierce, is a woman's picture. Naked Kiss was about a woman protagonist who had to make her way in a man's world, just like our character Mildred Pierce is. So I would call it a blend between a melodrama and a film noir, hence a mellow noir. But let's first say, is it really a film noir, FT? Let's.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Even though you said it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the whole genre is a weird one, It is a murder story. There's
yes.
It's lit that way. I mean, it looks that way. It has the feel. It has the typical the contrast, pools of light, low-key lighting, dramatic music, and it moves quickly. It's a quick film, So it has expressionistic touches, which, as we know, is a German expressionistic, I should say. Not abstract expressionist touches.
But aside from that, thematically, it falls squarely within film noir, because film noirs are characterized by films that almost all the characters are not good characters. Even in film noirs, even the good guys are the good criminals versus the bad criminals. And Mildred Pierce again is a cast of very flawed, not good characters, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
I ask you a question, Ken? Can I ask you?
Yes, sure.
Are you a flawed person?
Yes.
Are you a good person?
Yes.
Okay, so you can be flawed and a good person.
Yes, but not. I'm not a. But no, I'm not a character in a
film noir.
In film noir,
in my personal film noir. Okay, like in Idaho. Yes. Okay.
If you were going to make a film about me, it would not be a film noir. It would be a hagiography, like Jim Thorpe, All American.
Yes, right. Exactly. With Bert, AI generated. Yes. Anyhow,
who is the czar of noir? FT.
The czar of noir. That's nice. You thought that one up. The czar
no, I
of
didn't.
noir.
We've talked about it. I think you're jealous of him. Whenever we talk about the czar of noir, Eddie Muller, you always get very dismissive.
Oh, I thought you were thinking of a director, which I always go Sid Mac, which is ridiculous. But
So Eddie Muller, the czar of noir. Let's hear what he has. He has some interesting comments about Mildred Pierce in noir. He says that in noir, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting him, in noir, it's often about a male character led astray by an evil femme fatale, like Double Indemnity or Postman Always Rings Twice, both written by the author of Mildred Pierce, James M. Cain.
Yes, sir.
But he says in Mildred Pierce, the protagonist is brought to ruin by an evil femme fatale, but it's her own daughter. Yeah, which I think is a pretty fascinating take on Mildred Pierce by the czar of noir, Eddie Muller.
Although there is a technicality that it's Monty that sells his share. Just saying that it does flip a little bit. That's the financial crisis at the end. Spoiler. Remember when Monty sells 1/3 of his share?
Yes.
That's what causes havoc.
Yes, but Monty would not even be in the picture without Vita.
No, I understand. Yes. I understand.
Yeah, no,
but he didn't have to do that. Yeah,
I know you like to bring up technicalities.
Oh, just a mere technicality.
Everything comes back to Vita. But also, as you pointed out, the look of Mildred Pierce is so clearly noir, especially in the murder sequence, and FT's been working on, which I thought was a kind of a brilliant project for a person with too much time on their hands. He re-edited Mildred Pierce and put together the opening sequence, which is the murder, and the end sequence where it's a flashback to the night of the murder, and he put them both together in one sequence. But I think it is, particularly those sequences are scream noir in terms of their look. Other scenes within Mildred Pierce also visually are so noir-esque. And I would argue you have to consider that Mildred Pierce came out in 1945. Most of the classic noirs came out after that, and I would argue that the look that Curtiz and the art director Anton Grott and the cinematographer Ernest Haller brought to Mildred Pierce was foundational for the look of what we think of as film noir. And clearly, when you look at some of the lighting in Mildred Pierce, and you put it up against, again, what you consider quintessential textbook film noir, the films of Anthony Mann with the director of cinematography, John Alton, T-Men, what was the other one, Frank?
I think Raw Deal, right?
Thank you, FT.
Yeah.
So T-Men, Raw Deal, put those up, and you can, I think, see how much came of was inspired by the work, the visual work on Mildred Pierce.
Yes.
But I also think, before we move on, also, Mildred Pierce once again conforms to what the Greeks would have called tragedy in that it's a film where the protagonist brings about her own downfall.
Yes, absolutely.
Should we dive into some of the origin story of this film, but first start with kind of the origin story back a little bit about a lot about Michael Curtiz, the director?
Yes, I think it'd be a grand idea. Born in Hungary, you said, right?
Yes, as you said, FT.
As I said,
Michael Curtiz was born in Hungary.
Curtiz, yes.
And he was a classically trained actor. And he virtually invented the film industry in Hungary. He was kind of the Cecil B. DeMille of Hungary.
You mean D.W. Griffith?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Right.
D.W. Griffith. But he directed around 70 films in Hungary and Europe before he came to America. In total, Michael Curtiz directed 181 motion picture films, which is far more than John Ford, who probably did about 130. And he did directed more films than George Cukor, Victor Fleming, and Howard Hawks combined.
Wow.
In fact, if you took all the films of Michael Curtiz and spliced them together, they would wrap around the Earth 7 times.
Or from the Earth to the moon and back, yes.
I think it's an interesting story of Michael Curtiz actually coming to America. And will you allow me to tell that story, FT?
Stop doing this. Yes, I will allow you. Please. Pretty please.
It's a pretty funny story. And we'll go to Jack Warner's memoir for this story.
Okay.
And
you should have pages flipping like the calendar in the films, film noirs, like flip.
Jack Warner, as we know, is one of the Warner brothers. They were actually brothers like the Coen brothers, like the Safdie brothers. FT, I wish we were brothers because I think that would just be a better hook for our podcast.
It would be the brothers.
Yes.
Carry my heads off.
So Jack Warner was the Warner brother who was in L.A. Harry Warner was in New York running the business affairs. But Jack Warner in his memoir talks about Curtiz coming to America by steamship. And he was coming to direct a picture called Noah's Ark that he had worked on the treatment for, and he was coming to America. And I'll now read from Jack Warner's memoir. And just keep in mind as I read this that everybody called Michael Curtiz, they all called him Mike. That's how he was known. So when he refers to Mike, it's Mike Curtiz. Here we go. As the steamer slid up the Hudson River to the dock, there were fireboats hurling spears of water high about the ship. There was a band playing martial music on the shore, and the sky was on fire with Roman candles and bursting rockets. Mike was so overcome that he wept. I never had the heart to disillusion him about the noisy and wonderful welcome to the great Michael Curtiz on the waterfront. He just happened to arrive in New York on the 4th of July.
I was going to say, who else was on the boat? Woodrow Wilson or something. Yes, right. That's a good one. Yeah.
And so picking up the story, he was in New York and then got on a train to go to Hollywood. And when he got to L.A., a stranger in a strange land, nobody from the studio was there to greet him. So he took a streetcar to the Warner Brothers studio. He got through the studio gates and went to Jack Warner's office. And when he went into Jack Warner's office, Jack Warner was on a massage table getting a rub down. And Curtiz said, I've got my treatment here. And Warner just said, we're not going to do that. Just leave your treatment. You're going to do the 3rd degree.
Oh, so the treatment was for Noah's Ark.
The treatment for Noah's Ark. That's what he came to America to do.
Right.
And Jack Warner on the massage table, face down, just said, "We're not doing that. You're going to do the 3rd degree." The 3rd degree was a police procedural crime drama, and as Alan Rody, the biographer, pointed out, it posed 2 significant problems for Curtiz. One was he could not read English. So he couldn't read the script. And 2, he had no idea of the American justice system to do a film that was a crime film. But that was his first film. And Noah's Ark did get done many years later.
Yes. I saw it.
Oh,
it's not a biblical story.
So and sorry, I should tell the audience that FT now is the greatest living Curtiz expert.
Curtiz.
He watched every available Curtiz film over the past few weeks.
Just several. There's a lot of them are not available. Like Unsuspected, I really wanted to see when you said
that's supposed to be a good one.
I can't find it anywhere, no library, but we have our ways. It's an interesting. It turns out being a World War I story.
Sorry, Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark, yeah.
But it's funny because it's referred to as biblical. So are you sure?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm sure. But and it's one of those oddball things that it's a half talkie and a half silent, and it's odd because there'll be some scenes where they're just they're mute, and then you get a title card, and then right after that there'll be dialogue.
Right.
It's weird, anyhow. Yeah. So it wasn't a biblical epic. Yes.
It's interesting because it's fascinating that you bring up half silent, half talking. His career, he was the first person at Warner's to shoot a talking film. He was the first person at Warner to shoot a color film. He was the first person to shoot a Technicolor film. He was the first person to shoot VistaVision. I mean, his career basically spanned cinema history. And he ascended from that humble beginning to be the top director on the Warner's lot by 1938.
England. In the gallant days when history hung on the flight of an arrow or the slash of a sword, when feudal barons ravaged the countryside to live in pomp and splendor, when one man alone dared challenge the might of his country's oppressors, Robin Hood, outlaw of Sherwood Forest, and his stalwart band, robbing the rich to feed the poor, ready to fight for king, for country, or for maiden fair.
Now, this forest is wide. It can shelter and clothe and feed a band of good determined men, good swordsmen, good archers, good fighters. Are you with me?
I'm in love with a man whom I dislike intensely, who'd cheat me, who'd lie to me, whom I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw the Queen Mary.
You don't mean me, do you?
Does the description fit, you big lug?
Jean.
Yes, dear?
I love you, too.
By Warner Brothers, entirely in new Technicolor, against the majestic grandeur of California's Sacramento Valley, this enthralling drama tells the vivid story of the great gold boom of 1877, when hydraulic mining laid open a new treasure.
His work ethic was brutal. He was known as
Killer Cortez.
Cortez the Killer.
Yes.
He was known to push his crews to the breaking point. He worked 20-hour. He would work his crews 20-hour days, 7 days a week. And his biographer Ellen Rhodey said, "quote Curtiz was in a perverse way responsible for the founding of this Screen Actors Guild in 1933."
The Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Okay, not the Directors Guild. Interesting.
Okay, well, you missed the point. I'm glad you're questioning that. The point is he's saying the Screen Actors Guild had to be formed to protect the actors against the oppressive working conditions.
Nice.
Yeah. But good. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought I was making a point. His biographer thought he was making a point, but maybe the audience would not have gotten that point.
I didn't get it at first.
Right. No, I know. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
Curtiz would get upset that the cast and crew would want to break for lunch. He called them lunch bums.
Lunch bums.
Yes.
Yes.
And that leads to an interesting story about a lunchtime story, if you want to hear it. And it's interesting because it gets into this whole Hollywood lore, filmmaking lore that got interesting. So the story is that, again, he didn't want. He hated breaking for lunch, yet he was also known for being a Lothario. He had many mistresses, many children that were not
really.
Oh yeah,
wow.
no, and that's why he made so many films. He made tons of money. He was the highest paid director at Warner Brothers, but he was constantly in debt because he had all these mistresses, all these children out of wedlock that he was supporting.
Oh my God!
But anyway, coming back to our lunchtime stories, so a sound man. They were shooting on a stage, and a sound man who was, I guess, hip to Curtiz's, and the crew's, I guess, kind of conspiring against Curtiz and knew what he was up to, placed a mic behind the sets, behind all the flats on this huge sound stage, where I guess he knew that Curtiz was going during the lunch hour while everybody else was eating. And he placed a microphone back there, and Curtiz took an actress back there and had sex with this actress while the cast and crew sat around listening on a speaker to them having sex.
Lunchtime. He had a lunch of a different style.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
But it's interesting because there's that story, and then but it's interesting because when I first started directing for the first time in Los Angeles, which would have been late 80s, a crew member told me a story, which again, he said he was on that crew and, hey, we're shooting and he was mic'd up and he didn't take his mic off when he went into his trailer. He was wearing a wireless lavalier mic and went into his trailer with a woman who performed fellatio on him. And the crew was all sitting around the sound guy's cart with a speaker, and they had their headphones on, listening to getting head from this woman. And as the story went, he was very specifically directing the woman. Sorry, when I say the woman, I should say the philatelist. He was specifically directing her. Sorry, FT. That's when you're
to the left,
break in.
to the right, to the
yeah. No, but that's exactly. But wait, God. I said philatelist. That's where usually would jump in and say, "Wait a second, philatelist."
Wait a second, philatelist.
Yes, a philatelist is a stamp collector, Frank.
Oh. I knew that. Yes. That's the reason why I didn't say anything.
Right. No, but this one
How do you know that fallacious wasn't also a philatelist? I mean, you're being ridiculous.
Oh, right. Yes, she could have been. Right.
Was.
Yes, she could have been. Right. Sorry.
Ridiculous.
Short. Yes. So was very graphically saying do this to the head, shaft, balls, and just continually directing it.
Wait, let me hear what you say. What your directions are. No, do the head, do the shaft.
But it's interesting, FT.
Yes, it is.
This Hollywood lore also made it onto an HBO TV series, which I know you've watched. What was it?
I can't think of anything funny.
No, just answer. You know it. You've seen the show.
I probably have seen the show.
Yes.
This lore. I don't know which one. I don't know.
Entourage, where Johnny Drama goes into his trailer, mic'd up, and masturbates. He's so tense that he thinks by masturbating he can relieve his tension, and he's mic'd up.
And they mic him up, right?
Well, he is mic'd up. He doesn't take his mic off. So interesting Hollywood lore. Have you learned any lessons from this Hollywood tale, FT? If you were an actor,
always eat lunch.
No, always take off your mic when you go in your trailer or behind.
Mike's mic.
Yes. Take your mic off.
Okay, get your mic off. That sounds like a dirty expression, a code word.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's hurry up and move on.
But would you care for another Michael Curtiz work ethic story?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have one more?
From the Seahawk. Have you seen the Seahawk?
The Seahawk, I did
1940.
Not see.
Oh, I
saw Seawolf. No, I couldn't see Seahawk. Seawolf. Jack London one.
Seahawk. So 1940, they've built a huge sailing ship on a soundstage, on the biggest soundstage at Warner Brothers, and it's an actual basically set for the ship, and they're filming on the top deck of the ship, which is 20 feet above the floor of the soundstage. And Curtiz is blocking a shot, and apparently, because, and we're going to get into this in a second, he was not a very good English speaker, so he would gesticulate, and so he's trying to block out the shot, and he's pacing and gesticulating, and the actor playing the minister in this scene, takes a step back to avoid Curtiz's arms and falls off the back of the ship 20 feet down to the concrete floor of the soundstage. Curtiz goes to the edge, looks down. The guy is on the floor, not moving, unconscious. Immediately whirls around to his AD and says, "Get me another minister."
Quick, vite. Oh my God! Wow, Jesus.
Yeah. But speaking about his use of the English language, he was famous for this. His mangling of the English language. Somebody said of Curtiz that he spoke 5 languages, all unintelligibly. And he was so famous for his malapropisms that they became called Curtizisms.
Curtizisms, probably.
Yeah, Curtizisms. Yeah. One of them was he had been nominated for Best Director many times and never won. And he said, "So many times I have a speech ready, but no dice. Always the bridesmaid and never the mother."
Oh my God!
He once said he shouted at somebody, "Don't talk to me while I'm interrupting." I got to use that.
Yes, indeed.
One of the most famous ones, David Niven, the actor, used.
Right, I know this. Yeah,
used for his memoir, and Curtiz was on a set directing some action sequence where there were horses, and he wanted to cue the horses that had, I think it was a war picture, the horses with no riders on them, and he yelled out, "Bring on the empty horses."
I could see saying that,
Yeah. Yes. So he's basically kind of, you can think of him as the Yogi Berra of Hollywood.
Now I'm going to think of him as the Yogi Berra of Hollywood. Yes.
My business partner at an advertising agency I started also fell into using malapropisms. And one that I'll never forget, we're in this meeting with the clients, and She was a female, the only female in this.
She was a female. Yes.
That's a good title for a movie, isn't it?
She was a female.
She was a teenage female. But anyway, we're in this conference room meeting with it's all men in suits, the clients around this table, and me and my partner, who is as we've established is a woman, and she looked at the clients and said, "You guys need to get your balls in the air."
Get your And she was a Native American, right?
Yes.
I mean, a person born in America, not a Native American, right?
Correct.
Native to the yes. Oh my God.
Let's get back to something we teased at the beginning. I would hate to tease something and then
tease it. Yeah. Yes.
And that question was here we have the director of Casablanca.
Yes.
Director of 180 films, Mildred Pierce.
Yes.
The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Why is he not named as one of the top directors like John Ford or Orson Welles or Alfred Hitchcock? FT.
I have no idea. Honestly, I really don't. There's something about, one of the things is, here's a question. Did he have much to do with writing the scripts?
No.
I mean, that was a Hollywood system.
I mean, we could do a whole show on that. Basically, his wife that he
first wife,
he ran around on, would run around. What had been I forget if she was a screenwriter or she was in the script department at Warner Brothers, and so her name was Bess, and she helped him with his scripts, and the writers would get very frustrated because Curtiz would come in with notes and they would know it was from Curtiz's wife. And they wrote there were a couple incidents where, they'd say, "Why are we doing this?" And Curtiz couldn't explain why he wanted.
I don't know. Right.
Oh, that's what she said.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. So he was not. He never wrote any of his scripts, nor could he really rewrite them.
Well, that's so he was not a golden boy of the Cain boys, right? The French.
Okay, but you're kind of mixing two things, because there are a lot of directors.
No, I know. No. I'm just saying auteur. I mean,
okay,
one of the hallmarks is.
So let's go there. You brought up the A word, which is auteur, which is the auteur theory. So we can proceed here, Frank. FT, would you please define in one word or less what is the auteur theory?
The author of the film.
Yeah, sorry, I was joking when I said one word or less, and nevertheless, you still went.
I mean, where there's an author, there's a stamp on the picture as like that of an author. You can tell a Faulkner novel. You can tell, blah
right.
blah blah.
No, the idea is that film, and it's it's controversial because it's dismissive of the everybody else who works on a film. But it's not a crew. It's not a collaborative thing. It's a director is the author of the film, and that's the auteur theory. Yes. And interestingly, it really came. They would have been watching films like Mildred Pierce, because it came out of a group of French critics at Cahiers du Cinéma, and it was interesting because they came across it. They hadn't been able to watch any American films during World War II. World War II ends, and they start watching all these films after the fact, and they start saying, wait a second, some of these directors really in the studio system really have a kind of a trademark, and they developed all this auteur theory, the auteur theory. And yes, you were right to bring this up, FT, because that was where things went against Michael Curtiz, in that he doesn't really have one style. In fact, he directed in every genre, sword pictures,
comedies,
sea pictures,
musicals.
He directed everything, and he did not have a definitive style. And
but
yes.
I will say, in my investigations, and my initial feelings about Curtiz, is that there is a period which I would call iconic Michael Curtiz. And that starts with Casablanca. It goes through to Victory at Marseille, even This Is the Army, somewhat even in Mission to Moscow, and it starts petering off by the time we get to this film, Mildred Pierce, and that is the fluid camera movement. The endless camera movements, and not just the way Hollywood guys would do it, which would adjust the frame. A character walks in, at a long shot, and you pan a little bit to adjust it. This was deliberate tracking, deliberate craning, and it's really present in those couple of years to me, which I would say count as the Curtiz style. That's what I always thought it was. And so every time I've looked at another film, I go like, this one really isn't. This is more Hollywood, stable camera, some movement. But
he got hammered. He got hammered a lot because he always moved the camera. So in his early years, he would get notes from the studio saying, Mike, stop moving the camera so much. And it was interesting. He was directing and part of the reason he moved the camera so much maybe is because when he first started directing, the camera couldn't move. There were no dollies when he first started working.
Right.
And people talked about he would incessantly move the actors within the frame.
Right.
And so then when he could start moving the camera, it was a whole new world for him. And we're going to talk about, as we get into this film, he's a master at moving actors within the frame, choreography in the frame. But I'm glad you brought up the auteur theory, FT, because this cut against him. Since the dominant theory of film criticism post-war was, in the 60s, when film criticism really became a thing, was this auteur theory, and Curtiz was dismissed as a studio hack. I'm going to read a couple of quotes that I think are interesting on this. I'm going to start with the first one from the aforementioned Ellen Rohde, Curtiz's biographer, and this is a quote from the bio. In the end, Curtiz made so many movies that he ended up being taken for granted.
Absolutely. He was taken for granted. He was part of the system, indistinguishable from anybody else, Archie Mayo or those guys. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, basically, you could think of him as not only as the Yogi Berra of Hollywood, but as the Nicolas Cage of directors.
Help me out with this one now.
Well, Nicolas Cage, because of his financial woes, has just done so many movies, and he has actually done good work, but it's just buried by bad work, and it's just so much work that you lose track of who Nicolas Cage is, and he becomes kind of a joke.
Not to me, buddy.
I know you're a big Nick. You've got
I'm not.
I
respect him, though. I respect him. I respect his work.
Yeah, it's a mutual respect. He respects you.
I know he does.
I'm going to read another quote from the critic David Thompson. Thompson said, "Was he an auteur?" Speaking of Curtiz, was he an auteur? No, far better than that, which is kind of interesting.
Huh? Did he elaborate?
Yes, but I don't have it. I don't have it handy.
I don't know what it was.
Thompson wrote an essay on Curtiz in the New York Review of Books. If people want to try to find it.
I can't stand you mispronouncing his name.
Right back at you.
Yeah, but you always called him Curtiz before.
Yes, I did. But now that I know.
And I wish you would have looked up Rhodey, make sure you had that pronunciation right.
Probably
now
not.
I think about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but isn't there a poetic justice in that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
FT, maybe enough about Michael Curtiz for the moment. Why don't we dive into the origins of Mildred Pierce, the film? What do you say? You up for that?
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I am totally up for that.
I think we need to start with the source material, which was a novel written by one James M. Cain. How much you know about Cain?
A little bit. He was kind of high. He was kind of highbrow, in a way.
Okay.
He worked for the. He started as a journalist, right? That much.
Yes, he was a journalist. He started with the Baltimore Sun.
Right, but then he ended up assistant editing with Mencken at the Mercury.
Correct.
And then he even was for almost a year managing editor of the New Yorker.
Correct.
Highbrow.
Yes.
Highbrow. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not a spring chicken at that point. He had started young, right?
Yes.
From Baltimore. Yes.
Yes. So keep going. You're on a hot streak.
That's all I know. Then he wrote novels.
No. Then he moved to Hollywood to become a screenwriter, and failed. He could not translate his skills to writing screenplays, but he stayed in L.A. and started writing novels. The first of which was a little novel called "The Postman Always Rings Twice," which became a sensation. They tried to make it into a play, which failed. Later became not one, but two movies. He wrote another novel called Double Indemnity, which became a film directed by Billy Wilder. And by the way, Double Indemnity is basically a retread of Postman Always Rings Twice in terms of the plot. Just kind of careers changed and stuff like that, but it's still kind of this femme fatale, the woman drawing the man into the plot to kill. And in 1941, he wrote Mildred Pierce. He had 8 best-selling novels, 8 bestsellers between 1934 and 1948.
Wow.
The Modern Library has a list, which I know you love these lists, of the top 100 novels of all time. Are you familiar with that list, FT?
I am not.
Do you think any of James M. Cain's novels are on the list of the top 100 novels of all time?
I do not.
You don't think they would be there?
No, and it would be a gross mistake, but
how can you have you read them all?
No.
So why would you say it would be a gross mistake if you haven't?
Well, because I think in the one that I've only read one.
Okay, which one did you read?
I read this one.
Mildred Pierce. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a fine piece of
All
writing.
right, you're correct. Mildred Pierce is not on the list, but one of his other novels is on the list.
Oh, it is? Okay, which one is that?
Postman Always Rings Twice. Is on the list of the top.
Have you read that one?
Novels. Yes, but not a long time ago. I read them. I've got the collected works, and
he wrote a lot, right? Yeah.
So what number do you think Postman Always Rings Twice would be? FT, you're usually good at this.
63.
No, 98. So your instincts were somewhat right that it just barely made the list.
Yeah.
So it's number 98. What do you think number 100 is?
Something Chandler.
No. No, it's not. It's not a list of the best mystery novels.
I know.
Greatest 100 novels.
I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. It was a novel that was made into a film by one Orson Welles.
The Trial. Kafka. He's not American.
No, Magnificent Ambersons. Booth Tarkington
really?
is number 100 on the list.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah. So coming back to the film development, Double Indemnity is made into a film at Paramount with Billy Wilder directing. It's a huge hit. So at Warner Brothers, a producer named Jerry Wald wants to buy Mildred Pierce. And we need to back up for a second, though, to talk about Jerry Wald and talk about the significance there. Up to this point, Curtiz had been working with the top producer on the Warner Brothers lot. Can you name that producer? You probably can after what? Well, you've just watched 80 million Curtiz films. Who is the producer?
I don't know.
And he got the credit right at the beginning. Hal Wallace. Hal.
Oh, right,
Wallace.
right.
Yeah.
Jerry Wald, Hal Wallace.
But Hal Wallace was, a Hal Wallace production. He was the top producer on the Warner lot, and again, Curtiz top director, and they'd come up together. They'd come up together. Curtiz becomes the top director on the lot. Hal Wallace is the top producer. But you might notice Hal Wallace was not the producer of Mildred Pierce. Do you know what happened, FT? There's a story here. There's a true Hollywood story.
A true versus a false Hollywood story.
Yes. Do you know what happened?
He got in some trouble, some harassment thing. No. He got in financial trouble. No. World War II. No, don't tell me.
No. Here's what happened.
What happened?
So Hal Wallace, of course, was the producer of Casablanca.
Yes.
And at the Academy Awards ceremony where Casablanca was named Best Picture, Jack Warner jumps up out of his seat and goes up to the podium to accept the award. And the rest of the Warner family, and by the Warner family, I mean the family members, Hal Wallace says they blocked him in. He couldn't even get out. And Wallace said, Jack Warner had zero to do with Casablanca other than being the head of the studio. And he was so pissed, he left Warner Brothers. He left Warner Brothers.
You have any idea what you'd have to look forward to if you stayed here? 9 chances out of 10 we'd both wind up at a concentration camp. Isn't that true, Louis?
I'm afraid Major Strasser would insist.
You're saying this only to make me go.
I'm saying it because it's true. Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going. If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have. We lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
And I said I would never leave you.
And you never will.
So now there's Jerry Wald, who's described as an up-and-comer. In fact, so much so that Bud Schulberg, his novel, What Makes Sammy Run, was based in part on Jerry Wald, the fast-talking, up-and-coming studio producer. Jerry Wald wants to buy Mildred Pierce because he thinks, it could be the next Double Indemnity. Jack Warner says, wait a second, before we lay out the money for this, send it over to the Breen office. The Breen office being the Production Code Administration office that was enforcing basically the censor of films at that time. They send it over to the Breen office, their treatment for Mildred Pierce, and here's what came back. I have it here.
Right, it's a treatment they sent over. So they did a treatment.
Yes, they did a treatment. They did a treatment before they bought the rights to the novel. They sent it over to the Production Code Administration office.
Oh, yeah, I got you. All right. Yeah. So what's the response?
So the response came back from Joseph Breen himself, the head of the office. Quote, "The story contains so many sordid and repellent elements that we feel that the finished picture would not only be highly questionable from the standpoint of the code, but would likewise meet with a great deal of difficulty in its release, not only through censor boards, but from other public groups as well. In the face of all this, we respectfully suggest that you dismiss the story from any further consideration."
I'd like to see that treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jerry Wald was not to be deterred. And he thought, for two reasons.
Or disinterred.
One, again, he wanted another Double Indemnity. And, of course, Double Indemnity is about a murder. So he thought, let's add a murder story to Mildred Pierce. By the way, the novel Mildred Pierce does not have a murder, which is kind of the beginning of the central story of the movie Mildred Pierce.
Right.
He thought if he added a murder element, not only would it be more commercial, but it would help him get around the code because of their policy of moral.
Killing is okay, but sex? Any hint of sex?
Yeah, no, it was the Brino, the production code of administration had this whole thing of compensating moral values. Basically, think of it as crime doesn't pay. The criminal always has to get caught at the end.
Oh, right.
So he thought this murder, and in the screen treatment, Vita ends up going to the gas chamber, which is not the case in the novel. She goes off to fame and fortune in New York.
Right, but she's not even a murderer in the novel. The crime is completely different. There is a minor crime. There's violence, rather, in the novel. But the's no murder.
Yes, but again in the novel, the antagonist Vita again, goes off to fame and fortune in New York. In the novel, she goes off to the gas. In the movie, she goes off to the gas chamber.
I got your distinction of the difference.
Okay,
but in the novel, there's no murder at all, and it's not Vita. The violence is put upon her by her mother in the novel. It's a choking. But anyhow,
and by the way, the real problems with the novel are the shall we say, sex stuff, the extramarital affairs.
Sex stuff.
Well, it's a family podcast. It's a family podcast.
Right, and the divorced people and her,
And since it's a family podcast, let us turn to gangbangs. Your thought on gangbangs, FT? No, the reason I bring up gangbangs is this was the Jerry Wald method. He would.
You mean for writers?
For writers, he would not. Yes. Typically in Hollywood, you hire a writer. Well, something's not quite right. I'll hire another writer for a rewrite. Jerry Wald would just hire 10 writers, and they would all work on their own on a script, and then he would take them and cut and paste and mold it together into what he wanted. And sorry, the gangbang thing is a term we had in advertising when we were working on an account, and instead of it, an art director and a copywriter doing an ad, if the creative director put multiple teams on it at once, it was called a gangbang.
I figured that. I deduced it.
Okay. But gangbang also, but just so you know, FT, gangbang is also an sex thing, but we won't go into that. That's
YES. YES. Okay.
FT says YES to gangbangs.
Just say NO.
The credited screenwriter is Ronald, not Ronald McDonald.
McDougie.
Yeah, Ronald McDowell. McDougal.
No, McDougal.
But do you know some of the other screenwriters who worked on uncredited, who worked on Mildred Pierce, FT?
Raymond Chandler?
No.
William Faulkner?
Yes, William Faulkner.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know? Yeah. William Faulkner in his Hollywood period worked on, did a script for Mildred Pierce. I could not get my hands on it. It's in his archives.
Oh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, apparently it Alan Rhodey talks about, doesn't know if Faulkner was drunk or just fucking around with the studio. He says it's like bizarre, Faulkner's script of Mildred Pierce, as you might imagine. But one of Faulkner's contributions is in the final picture. Can you guess what that is, FT?
I cannot.
The character of the maid, Lottie, as played by Butterfly McQueen.
You're kidding me.
It was Faulkner's contribution. And I say not surprising because obviously in Faulkner's novels, if you've taken any graduate level Faulkner classes
or not,
there's usually the black maid as a either a minor or a central character in Faulkner's novels. So now we have the black maid character in Mildred Pierce, not in the novel. Why are you laughing?
It's unique to Faulkner, not in everything other Hollywood films. Yes. Anyhow.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you name another maid that Butterfly McQueen played?
No.
I think she was in Gone with the Wind.
All right, Gone with the Wind, right.
Yeah.
Interesting that a lot of the speaking parts in this film didn't get a credit at all. I mean, at first I was pissed off going like, what, uncredited? And then a number of people that had speaking parts didn't get a credit in this film, yes. Back in the short credit days. I guess they were saving silver nitrate for the war effort.
Yeah. There was another uncredited writer. Do you know who that is, FT?
No.
Catherine Turney. And Wald wisely thought it would be good to have a woman on this picture because it was, it's a novel about a woman, and it should be said that I think Cain's writing, is daring and very well done in terms of a man writing as a for a woman's character.
Yeah.
Jerry Wald wanted a woman screenwriter. He hired Catherine Turney, who major contributions to the script, major contributions to the movie. She was awarded credit by the Screenwriters Guild, yet her name does not appear on the film.
Huh.
And the reason for that is her agent. So the credit was going to be Anne. It was going to be a co-screenwriting credit with Ronald McDougall.
The conjunction of and.
Yeah, and Catherine Turney's agent said, I think this is going to hurt your career since you've been getting sole screenwriting credits. I don't want you to have a shared screenwriting credit. Huh. So they took her name off the credits, and she said she's regretted it ever since.
To this day.
I don't know if she's still alive.
Right.
But maybe to this day, even if she's dead, maybe
you
still
never know, right?
Regretting it from beyond.
Post-mortem regret.
Yeah. Should we just touch on a few scenes? We've already gone long here on this, all the origin stuff, but there are a few scenes or sequences I'd like to touch on briefly. And why don't we just start with the opening sequence? And I say sequence, not the scene, but the whole, the beach house to the pier and right into Wally's bar all really work together as I think a great sequence. What are your thoughts?
I agree. And the one thing I will, even though it's odd that she was going to commit suicide, but the one thing I didn't really notice, and I picked it up the second time I watched it, was that, you know what the cop says? He says, if you take a swim, then I got to take a swim. What, you want me to get pneumonia?
Right. Well, I'm glad you touched on this because I was going to bring it in. It's an interesting, and that's what's so great about film. Hopefully films are entertaining and teach it, but they also serve as time capsules. And it's interesting the treatment of suicide interventions today versus then.
Right.
So a cop comes across her committing suicide, and he says,
"What's on your mind, lady? You know what I think? I think maybe you had an idea you'd take a swim. That's what I think.
Leave me alone.
You take a swim, I'd have to take a swim. Is that fair? Just because you feel like bumping yourself off, I gotta get pneumonia. Never thought about that, did you? Okay. Think about it. Go on, beat it now. Go on home before we both take a swim.
Go on, beat it." Which is interesting, and again, just contrasting it with today. I have a friend who will remain nameless that a musician who was leaving a bar after playing a gig and driving out of this town, and cops pulled him over, and they were constantly doing that. They would hang out on the road, leaving this bar after hours to get drunk drivers, and my friend was clean and sober, didn't drink at all, but got so upset about getting pulled over that he said he got pulled over and he said to the cop, jokingly, why don't you just go ahead and kill me? And the cop thought that he was professing suicide and
get out of
took
here.
Him in. Yeah, and he got locked. He got locked. He had a 24-hour psychiatric lockup. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yes.
But I guess where I started isn't really the beginning of the beginning sequence, though, that you were talking about.
No, but it's all part of the sequence. It's interesting. I don't know. I didn't go back and analyze it, but I know FTU as an editor, there was something that I just thought was textbook editing and design on the, as you put it, when the cop comes up, wraps the railing with the nightstick, the cut there. It just seemed like textbook, and I didn't have a chance to go back and analyze it. Do you remember what makes that work so well?
No, actually, what I thought, it didn't work quite well enough for me because there's a framing of Jesus, what's her name? Joan Crawford, where she's looking a little bit off to the right, as if she's anticipating the cop. And this happened to me both times when I watched it.
Okay.
So that
what's wrong with that? Because obviously you would hear the footsteps coming on that wooden pier.
But then that's when she starts to climb. But anyhow, right. I mean, so her intention wasn't real. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I don't have a problem with that. Her intention was to kill herself, and all of a sudden she hears somebody coming, so I'm like, I'll do it now. I better do it. And then he's like, he stops her by wrapping the railing. So I don't have a problem with that. And again, I thought the railing somehow, with the sound and the cut, worked really well for me.
Yeah, I think it was close on her hands when the sound hits. I might be wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
So what the ring is. Yeah.
But before she gets out on the pier, we, as you said, you skipped over the scene inside the beach house, which again, the lighting, the music by Max Steiner, who we didn't mention, the top composer on the lot at Warner Brothers.
Yes.
So Wally, there's gunshots, and we see Monty stagger into the camera. We talked about how similar that is to the opening of Naked Kiss, and then he falls to the ground, and we see how this film is really drawing on an earlier film. Can you talk about that, FT? We talked about how Naked Kiss kind of drew on this film, but this film in that sequence in that scene draws on an earlier film.
I can't. Help me out.
Oh, okay. Well, again, it's at the beginning of Citizen Kane.
Rosebud.
Yeah. Cain says Rosebud, and then the film is
he goes Mildred. Yeah.
Well, what is it about Rosebud? Right. He says Mildred, and this film is about who is Mildred Pierce.
Right.
And
in my adventure, by the way, of trying to make a continuous version of the killing, there's a mismatch, there's a miscontinuity when he says Mildred. Because in the first one, it cuts to a close-up of him when he's lying down, Monty is, and he goes, Mildred. And when it's reduxed at the end, he's still falling and rolling when it's dubbed over, Mildred. Yeah, it's interesting, but... Yeah.
Before we move on, I just want, again, the art director, Anton Grot, the sets are so fantastic.
Yeah.
That whole Malibu Pier thing is a set on a soundstage.
It's amazing.
Is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then into Wally's Bar, which is also right there. And good to watch Wally's Bar because we touched on it earlier. Curtiz in Casablanca, and you said in other films, shows a real mastery of choreographing background action. Just watch the way the background actors move, the way the camera's moving in concert with them, and you see it again in this shot in Wally's Bar with the way the background action is handled. It's almost like could be out of Casablanca.
Yes.
Could be Rick's Bar.
Could be. And what about the parrot?
Oh, right. Right. What is it about the parrot again?
The Blue Parrot, which is Sidney Greenstreet's bar in Casablanca.
Right. Yes. Right. In Casablanca, it's the Blue Parrot. And yes. And in Wally's Bar, Curtiz puts a parrot in there.
Yes.
Good catch, FT.
Thanks. And there's a second thing. It is the place where Vita ends up singing.
Yes.
So we get that. You like to talk about bookends and all that stuff. There's a bookend right there.
I do like to talk about bookends, but really what we're talking about is
films.
No, is Warner Brothers budgets. So again, if they're going to build a set, they're going to damn sure use it more than once.
Of course.
And in fact, there's a lot of stories. There was another film Curtiz worked on. Maybe it was Casablanca, the train station. Jack Warner made them use, I think, the train station that was built for now Voyager for the train station in Casablanca.
I don't remember a train station in Casablanca.
There is one, I think. I don't know. Did you watch it? Did you watch it this week? Or?
Yeah, I didn't see a train station as an airplane.
So I might be getting mixed up, or you might be getting mixed up.
I might have forgotten.
There is a train station
that is reused somewhere,
and Jack Warner made him use.
Why not?
Now Voyager.
Same city.
Yeah.
Why not? Makes sense.
I wanted to jump to the scene where Kay,
a cute little kid,
as she's known in the film. She's Ray in the novel, where Kay dies. I was just struck again by the set design, the cinematography, the way he uses or I guess it was Ernest Haller, unless it was Curtiz's idea, the shots where they basically motivate a light off. And by the way, throughout, it's interesting, all the lighting is really motivated always. There's very, very little or no general lighting. All the light sources are motivated. But in that scene, and it's very dramatic. The nurse is lit, basically the whole room, but the nurse's face is lit by the dial of the oxygen tank. And I thought, also struck by the way Curtiz chose to shoot one of his angles from inside the oxygen
from
tent.
behind a tent. Yes, it's really, really nice.
And also Curtiz in this film uses mirrors so much, and I thought one of the best uses was after Kay dies, we see Mildred and Vita on the couch.
She's comforting Vita,
Comforting Vita while the mirror behind them shows the doctor and the nurse leaving the field of battle.
And then Bert approaching, so, it's another case. That's something that is interesting element because, as you said, mirrors are all over the place in this film, particularly when Bert comes into the bar later on, a really fancy shot there. But it's something that Stefan Scharf in his book, Elements of Cinema, referred to as extension of the frame. So so you don't have to pan around. You don't have to do any weird cuts to have Bert enter and match cut and all that shit. Another setup. You put the mirror there, and you get this magic of him, exiting left and entering.
Right, and I think Scharf's term, even though I was not in his course as you were at Columbia, the idea is that instead of the flat 2 dimensions of cinema, it gives us the sense that there is other dimensions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Interesting in that scene too. We talked about the craziness of the cop coming upon a suicide victim and like you can't jump in. You have to jump in after you.
Make me sick.
But in this scene with Kay dying, the Maggie Biederhoff character saying to the doctor, so Kay's clearly in need of a code blue at a hospital, and Maggie Biederhoff says, "Well, I hope it was a good idea for me to bring her here instead of to a hospital."
Here's my other question, by the way. Pneumonia?
Yeah.
Wasn't there penicillin already?
I'm not sure, but
that sort of confused me. Because in the book it's what is it, grip or gripe?
Right.
In the book it sounds like it's an infection.
Right.
A bad infection that's full bodied. It's almost like sepsis is the implication. But here I was a little surprised, like pneumonia. I mean, it still kills, yes. So I guess, back then. But anyhow,
let's jump in the interest of time all the way to the final shot of the movie, and that is Mildred and Bert leaving. Vita is sent to the gas chamber.
Probably, yeah.
The chief of detectives or whatever his title is.
It's a fine morning.
Well, no. Again, you talk about the dialogue that falls flat. He says, sometimes I don't like being a cop.
Yes.
But anyway, so then Bert and Mildred walk out onto the porch, the exterior of the hall. Well, you think it's terrible, but there's something really interesting in that shot. Did you pick on what that? Again, there's problems with that shot, but there's something brilliant about it. Did you pick up on what that was?
All right, so wait, just to set it up. I mean, Mildred exits the police station.
With Bert?
No. She meets Bert. Bert's waiting for her with the washerwomen in the foreground.
Okay, good point. Good catch. Right.
And then they meet up, and then it cuts to this weird cathedral arch.
Yes.
With the city in the background.
Yes.
Complete with a church bell going bung, and I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is going on here? What were you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a brilliant touch, again, to bring the theme of Mildred Pierce home. The washerwomen, the women,
Yeah.
Again, this whole thing.
Wearing a uniform, yeah.
Yeah, these women scrubbing the floor.
Yeah.
Vida?
Yes, Mother, what is it?
Where did you find the uniform you gave Lottie?
I was looking for a handkerchief.
In my closet?
I looked everywhere else.
Your handkerchiefs are in your own top drawer where they always are. Now, what were you doing snooping around my closet?
Really, Mother, it seems to me you're making quite a fuss about something which doesn't matter. If you bought the uniform for Lottie, and I certainly can't imagine who else you could have bought it for, then why shouldn't she wear it?
You've been snooping around ever since I got this job, trying to find out what it is. And now you know. You know, don't you?
Know what? Know what, Mother?
You knew when you gave that uniform to Lottie that it was mine, didn't you?
Your uniform?
Yes, I'm waiting tables in a downtown restaurant.
My mother, a waitress.
I took the only job I could get so you and your sister could eat and have a place to sleep and some clothes on your backs.
Aren't the pies bad enough? Did you have to degrade us?
Vita, don't talk like that.
I'm really not surprised. You've never spoken of your people, who you came from, so perhaps it's natural. Maybe that's why Father...
And again, what kind of gets missed in this film, again, this was supposed to and kind of is supposed to be a woman's film. What's interesting is, and you kind of miss it with everything that's going on, is in that year, and again, the film was set late. The original book was set in the 30s. This is supposed to be the 40s. A woman who doesn't have a husband has very limited options to support a family.
Yes.
Does not have career options. And I guess that segues. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I guess, the segue is here. The different, society and women. One thing I thought about, and this is all going to tie together in the end, so bear with me, FT, is the name Mildred. Is not a name. Do you know anybody named Mildred, FT?
No. Yeah.
And by the way, I think you should think about how fortunate you are, FT, because, sorry, audience, FT's first name is Frank, is the F. How lucky you are to have your name is timeless. I mean, there's always Frank. There would have been Franks in the 1940s. There's Franks now.
Yes.
But Mildred was a name that just has somehow fell out of style. And I thought, again, I thought I shouldn't just say that. I should, would you ever, if I said, oh, I'm going out with this woman, Mildred, would you picture a hot young woman, FT?
Maybe.
No, you wouldn't.
You never know. You never know.
You wouldn't. But and so I thought.
I wouldn't.
Well, I thought on They Shoot Films that we don't like to just say shit. We like to have factual basis. So I thought I should
to eat shit.
I thought I should do some research. So I signed up for an account on OnlyFans, and I went on there and I searched for Mildred.
Yeah.
And there was zero results.
What's OnlyFan?
Sorry, OnlyFans, FT.
What is that?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay.
Just answer the question. Don't be incredulous.
No, well, I just don't know if you're saying that because you would be embarrassed to say you're on OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a site where mostly women, but it's actually women and men, get accounts and then let's just stick with the women thing. And again, I know there's some men, but it's really for women to go on there and put up photographs of themselves naked or having sex, and then men have to pay to see those pictures. And there are no Mildreds on OnlyFans. But it's also interesting. But so I did that to research Mildred.
Plenty of Clarences probably.
But then I started thinking, if Mildred Pierce was set today, it would be very different because, again, if she was trying to support her family, she could have an account on OnlyFans to get money.
Jesus, what the hell?
And that made me think, look how far as a society we've evolved in terms of our opportunities for women.
This is terrible. Yes. Yeah. Seriously, folks, as we would say.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this, with her being a career woman, is that this is precisely the period where in the United States culturally, right, women were put back into the home after having basically built all the armaments in the world.
Yes. Point taken.
Yes.
So let's quickly talk about acting. Your thoughts?
My thoughts?
Yes.
I don't have any. No, but what am I going to say? She won Best Actress, did she?
Correct.
Not?
Yeah, she did. Sorry, by she, you're referring to
Joan Mummy
Crawford.
Dearest. Mummy Dearest.
All right, well, don't again, let's be careful.
Don't tell me what?
Well, I think you have to be careful because part of the Joan Crawford thing, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What are the parallels between Joan Crawford's life and Mildred Pierce?
There's several.
Well, but specifically in terms of Mommy Dearest.
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, a lot. Again, it's really when people think of Joan Crawford now, one of the great screen actresses of all time, they immediately say, what you did? Oh, Mommy Dearest. There's a lot of questions about what her Mommy Dearest was written by her daughter, Christina. There's been a lot written about, how truthful Christina Crawford was being in that book, which really
upsets you.
Changed the perceptions of Joan Crawford. Again, a parallel. Again, we talked about Mildred Pierce's daughter, Vida, because of her love for her, bringing about her character, her downfall. In a lot of ways, Joan Crawford's daughter, Christina, brought about her fall from reputation.
I think this reaction was closer. It was like 20 years ago, more, or 10 years ago, where there was still the Mommy Dearest buzz.
No, it's still ramp. It's ramp. It's like the first. It's become the first. It's become the first association with Joan Crawford, and you just did it.
Fell into it. Yeah.
You fell into it, and you should be ashamed of yourself. No, but anyway, so put the Mommy Dearest thing aside, and again, let's talk about acting in
I've ruined everything now.
No, let's talk about acting in Mildred Pierce. So you want to talk about Joan Crawford?
She does a fine job. She really does.
You think so?
I do. I really think that she does. There's a couple bad moments. There's this weird, wacky smile when Monty finally breaks up with her. There's this weird moment. But I think she does a fine job. Remember, it's the Hollywood system.
I think right. I think. Sorry,
Wally's good.
Can I respond?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Okay.
But don't ask.
I would say her performance. It's hard to. It's iconic. I think her performance in Mildred Pierce.
What do you mean by iconic in this case?
I have no idea, but I just said it. Let me move on. Why do you always have to question me on everything? So it's an iconic performance. It's one of the greatest comebacks in the history of cinema.
This is a comeback, right?
One of the greatest. She was at MGM. Under contract. She had not made a film in 4 years at MGM. She was not getting any good scripts. And she said, much like Mildred, let me out. I'm going to make it on my own. She got out of her contract at MGM, went over to Warner's, didn't get work. She was in Hollywood Canteen as a cameo, and then really lobbied for this part, which this part had been offered to all the stars.
Stanwyck and all them.
Everybody turned it down. They didn't want to be seen as a mother of an adult child. Crawford said, sign me up. I think what's interesting about this, her acting viewed from a modern perspective obviously is problematic, but what is interesting, let's not view it from a modern perspective and think about Joan Crawford, who was one of the great actresses of silent film. Let's not forget.
Was she?
I thought you were playing a silent actor there. Joan Crawford was one of the great actresses of silent cinema.
She's in Grand Hotel, isn't she, with Garbo? Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is she feels like a silent film actress. And the great moments for me in Mildred Pierce of her are just her, Curtiz and Ernest Howler, just, tableau of her looking into camera with, like on the pier, her face. She brings that to the film. And again, Curtiz coming out of the silent era, I think work well together. Just, hey, let's let the face tell the picture. Interesting quote from Joan Crawford's father-in-law. You know who I'm referring to, FT?
No, I don't.
Douglas Fairbanks, her father-in-law, said, "Feelings are for silent pictures. Thoughts are for talkies." And I think in this film, she really does I think get across a lot of feelings just in her looks.
Oh yeah, no, I just no matter whether you're going to practice a method or not, there's private moments there. I mean, I also like her work with Monty, unpacking the dishes and all that. There's a freedom, there's a personality here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked her work. It's Hollywood. I mean, I find her better than Stanwyck, who was a big star. I mean, in general, I find her in this film.
Any other actors you want to touch on briefly before we wrap it up here?
Who played Wally?
It was Jack Carson, FT.
Huh. Right. What I just did there. Huh. There's a moment when she has, when he asks Mildred, "So you're in love with this guy, Monty?" And she goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Aha, Or there's just a nice couple weird moments that he does. Not him being the wolf at the beginning. That's embarrassing.
Right.
That's, and that's a script trouble, But after that, I really do like his, work. And I always, Eve Arden, with the wisecracking, but that's and that's what I really love about Hollywood, the Hollywood period.
Yes.
They can really write those snappy lines,
Yeah. What did you think of Anne Blyth?
You know what? She was okay. She played, she had the look, and, she was sneaky, and, I
thought she was quite good.
I think Evan Rachel Wood, I believe, who plays in Todd Haynes, was, something else. And that, for me,
well, FT, I feel sticky, so I think we should wrap this.
There's
up.
2 sticky parts, right?
Yeah, I know. So it was weird because in L.A., again, if the film was set on the East Coast as where Todd Haynes filmed it, somebody saying "I feel sticky" would make sense. Not really something people say in L.A. So obviously back then, "I feel sticky" meant something else. I don't know what it was, but yes, Mildred says it twice. I feel sticky. So we gotta wrap this. We gotta wrap this
well,
up.
You told me to make sure that the truth counts. It is Vita that says no sticky.
Oh,
right. When she goes to get a kiss.
Oh, right, right.
Too sticky.
Right, you're right.
So I took it to be like it was humidity, and her clothes were sticking on her. Mildred at the beginning because she went to change then, right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden Vita said, anyhow.
Anyway, we better get going here.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for listening. Please, if you haven't yet, please make sure to follow the show, like the show, give us a review. But for now, I think we should end this with a line from the novel.
The novel.
Mildred Pierce. I'm going to end it with the last line of the novel. Did you make it to the end, FT?
I did.
Okay, so you'll recognize this one as we sign off, and I go off to have a cocktail. And FT is the audience is gathered is a teetotaler, but
yes.
I will go off to drink. So in the novel, Bert, Mildred's once and future husband, comes up with a bottle after Vita has gone off for the last time. Comes up to Mildred, who's crying with a bottle of rye in his hand, and says, "Let's get Stinko." Yes, let's get Stinko. All right, FT, I'm going to go get Stinko, buddy.
All right. I'm going to go get Sticky.
They Shoot Films is a production of Film Symposium West. Produced by Anne-Marie De Palma. Studio announcer Roy Blumenfeld.